Grow your practice, grow your wealth, grow your impact. Find out how to spend less time in the dental chair and more time on the things you love.
Welcome back to the Dental Wealth Podcast. Glad to have you here. We had a great episode last week. And one of the things that we do and I do and you should be doing is always constantly trying to self-improve. Always trying to invest, right? I think one of the greatest investments we can do is we can invest in ourselves and invest in our growth. And I think, matter of fact, a large portion of your income should go towards that. And I think one of the reasons people struggle is that they don't put a large portion of their income into that and that they only leave a small amount. But that's a topic for another day. What I really wanted to do was talk to you today about something that hit me. And sometimes when I'm places, somebody will say something and it'll trigger a thought or just something that pops out. And the one I want to talk about this week really got me kind of fired up. And I think it was Saturday, and I was in this this gentleman was trying to kind of teach about business fundamentals kind of thing, kind of adding to my own acumen. And sometimes I watch these and I just kind of see if there's some things I can add or maybe I'll take away just 2 or 3 bites. The one I took away, I wouldn't say was a positive, but it is such a reminder. And here's what he said. He said, do you think your kids would rather have you there in the morning helping them get ready, or would they rather have you inherit, would they rather inherit $15 million instead? And then he goes on to say that your kids wouldn't want you to be around. Your kids don't want you to be around. They'd rather you be out working and getting $15 million, and that's what they want. They'd rather you go out in the marketplace and go work, and you never see them, and you travel all the time, and that's what they want. Do you believe that? I just think that's it's ridiculous. And I think this guy was living in his own little world. I think he doesn't see his family and he doesn't see his wife and kids. And I think because of that, he tries to justify it, and he justifies it for a room full of people. And I watched as he said this, as people started clapping and they're like, yeah, I was like, what? What is wealth? I mean, this is the Dental Wealth Podcast. We go back to it, and I thought, this is the antithesis of everything I teach, completely opposite. I thought it kind of made the guy almost like a clown to me. It was hard to respect him after that, because I thought, well, if that's your philosophy, is that we should just completely throw away our families and that it's all about the almighty dollar. And if you're listening to this thinking that this was going to be a podcast of me telling you to take your family and put them on the back shelf and it's all about money and it's all about greed and it's all about that, then I think you're at the wrong podcast, right? This podcast was created in the idea of utilizing a dental practice to create wealth. And what is wealth? I mean, I think seeing my kids in the morning is wealth. I mean, I think being able to have intentionality and teach their, I coach my kids soccer, and, I try to be there. I try to, dance with my young daughter in the kitchen, and, try to be at those special moments. Special moments are so powerful. And matter of fact, the money can come and go, but those moments, they last. And I would tell you that if you said, hey, Eric, you can trade in all those moments for $15 million. Well, hell, I'll take the moments. I can always go make $15 million, but I can't get those moments back. People don't remember the money you left them. Matter of fact, if you study wealth, you'll realize that most of the time, wealth never gets past the second generation because they didn't earn it. And so if you study families that actually left money down, right, it never gets the third generation. I know someone right now who is close to someone who has inherited a large trust fund, and the person doesn't really respect the money, right, because they didn't earn it. And so it is those moments. It is that time. It is that time with your family. And I want to teach you to grow a dental practice, and I want to teach you to do it right. But I want to keep this conversation in context, okay? I want you to have a phenomenal business. I want you to learn how to scale this thing out. I want you to grow it to multi-location if you want. And I want you to have 20 doctors if you want to. I want you to be able to spend, learn how to invest in capital and move money. But why am I trying to do that? I mean, the question is, why are we trying to grow this business? Why are we trying to create this? What are we trying to get at? What's the point? To be able to spend time with your family. The whole point of doing all of this is so you can impact people. And I always tell people I created Tower Leadership because I wanted people to be able to be impacted. And I always say the people you impact first are your family. That's the people that you impact first. It's your family. So when someone gets on stage and says that you should forget your money, your family over money, I take issue with that. Is that what you're doing? When you come home at 8:30 at night because you're staring at a computer screen, and somewhere along the way, somebody told you, hey, if I do that, that makes me a better business owner. Wrong. That makes me more successful. Wrong. That makes me a better fill in the blank. Wrong. If you want to build a successful organization, build a successful organization. Matter of fact, I would argue that if you can't go home at 5 o'clock, you've got a lot of work to do. That if you can't go home when it's time to go home and be intentional, then that's why you need to grow your practice. You grow your practice so that you can have that moments, not so that you can give them up. And I'm kind of having this reality check on this podcast today because I want you to hear the message and go, guys, get after it. Get after it. Work your tails off. But you're working your tails off so that you can be with your family. If you don't know how to scale the organization up to get time, then that's where you need to focus, right? And the reason you bring in associates is not so that you can be all powerful and rich. By the way, I'm not putting aside the ability to have capital. I think you should have lots of capital, and I think you should be able to utilize it. And that's what I teach, and that's how I grow people. But why are there so many unhappy billionaires? Because they listen to some goofball on a stage tell them that they should miss everything that their family does for $1. So I'll tell you this. You want to be a successful business owner, emulate people like Richard Branson. You want to be successful, you emulate people who found out how to create phenomenal organizations, who became billionaires, but still spent so much time with their family. That's what being successful means, is that you actually created capital and businesses and enterprise so that you could do the things you wanted to. And I remember looking at my son's face this year as we were literally on the front lines at Camp Nou in Barcelona, and we're watching Lionel Messi 10 feet away. Greatest soccer player in the world right now is 10 feet away from us. See, I don't give up those moments. I work for those moments. It's who you become on the way to this process. And there's so many consultants and financial advisors and people out there right now selling you a bunch of garbage. And they're telling you that if you'll just work harder, if you'll just give them another $1, another $10, another $15, then eventually, if you just put all this stuff off, then eventually one day you get to finally spend time with your family and you get to enjoy the fruits of your labor. And I'm telling you, that's a poor person's mentality. It's a broke person's mentality. It's been sold down the river so many times to make financial advisors wealthy. And I'm telling you, it's the wrong strategy. The right strategy. And by the way, you hear me talk about financial advisors. I think there's some great advisors out there, so don't take that the wrong way. My point is this. The point is that you create that today. You go to work today to create an organization that you can spend time with your family. You invest in marketing and you get the returns so that you can spend time with your family. You add opportunities so that you can spend time with your family. You add associates so that you can spend time with your family. You create millions and millions and millions of dollars in capital, and you create passive income, and you create all these things so that you can go impact people and create something. So don't adopt this mentality. When you hear Dental Wealth Podcast, I need you to understand, when we go back to this idea of wealth, is this not an idea of, let me show. Now, by the way, I love capital. It's like my favorite thing is talk about capital investment. So I'm not moving away from the quantitative side. but we should keep it in perspective. Successful business owners get to spend time with their families. Now, some people can get on the other side of the spectrum. I mean, I'll agree with that. There are people that will get too far on one side of the spectrum, and they'll spend an indefinite time with their families, right? And they're at the golf course all day long, which is probably maybe not being time with their families, but they'll go too far in one direction. And when they get too far in that one direction, right, they're probably neglecting their family and sometimes their business. That's not what I'm talking about here, but I'm talking about intentionality. The intentionality to create a business that impacts your team, impacts your family, impacts your community, impacts those people around you. When you learn to do that, when you focus on those things, that's when you become a phenomenal business owner. Just because you grow a business to even $1 billion doesn't mean you're successful. When we talk about this idea of financial freedom, which is the idea of being able to come and go and do what you want, well, I would say that if you can't say good morning to your kids, you probably don't have financial freedom. Is that fair? So here's what I want you to take away from this podcast today. I want you to think about this for a minute. What are you chasing? I want you to write that down. Like, what are you chasing? What are you trying to get to? Like, what are you trying to get accomplished? And who's giving you the advice and where are they pushing you? You'll wake up one day and you'll have $10 million in the bank and you'll look around and nobody wants to share it with you. And what's the end purpose here, right? But what I want to do and what I'm going to do, if you listen to what I teach you, is I will show you how to create a massive amount of wealth so that you can spend time with your family. I'm going to show you how to create a business so that you can spend time with your family. And you won't have to give up the vacations or the mornings or the hugs. Guys, that's what it's all about. Thanks for listening. Have a great week. Hit subscribe.